Dearest adorable master,
Master.
Okay. I have a confusion on the relation of sound meditation with developing love and devotion. In some satsangs you said the Shabd is our true self and connecting with it connects to ourself and God. But then sometimes you say that no meditation of any kind connects us to God or home. So I feel there is a contradiction. Please, if you can explain.
Okay, I'll remove the contradiction today. I just explained in the morning that the self never changes. The self remains the same. All other is experience. Can we have an experience of the self if there was no other experience? Does the experiencer have an experience of the experiencer without any other experience, so that the existence of consciousness is automatic by itself? Yes, it is. The consciousness is aware of itself at all times. The self never loses the consciousness of itself. You all know the self is there. You are thinking. You are using a mind to think, using senses to work. You are using a body. Self is constantly known to us. Therefore, the self knows itself, but is there something experiencing the self? Yes, it is. The self can be experienced in physical plane like a sound coming from the self. And that's a very interesting thing. Sound coming from the self. We can call it meditation on the self. Normally, we do meditation around the self. We be repeating words, thinking of master, making pictures, all around. But we do not have any experience of the self itself. The experience of the self is called Shabd, sound. It is a connected experience and does not go away from one level to another. I called it earlier, the self remains the same at all levels. The sound connects at all levels also. That means the sound is here, sound is there, sound in a different form is right to the top. Now I'll explain what the different form is. The form that the sound is being used here, outside, are, we call it Varanatmak Shabd. That means sound that can be used for language, for speaking, writing and so on, which we are using now. I am using it right now. To communicate with you, I have to use sound in a language. And this is called Varanatmak Shabd, or that which can be spoken and that which can be written and communicated like this. But we don't need this, as I explained in the astral plane. The thoughts can transfer the meaning without using these words. Then what kind of sound is there? There you have a sound that emanates from the self, but resembles something else. Physically, we want to go to the astral plane. If we can attach ourselves to the sound of the soul, we are pulling our attention back to the self, and the other sound will start coming in. If you hear that sound, which is coming from the self, and not hearing this side or that side, roaring trains or chirping crickets and little bells ringing, which are all around it, but the sound of the self, it's very interesting. It resembles the sound of a big bell. It's just a coincidence. That is why we don't realize why bells were put up on the belfries in the churches, why bells are rung in all the temples, why this kind of a sound is being used. When the bell sound is there, it does not come from any side. It comes from self, and we are not aware where the self is, so it looks like it's all around us, like a surround sound. This is different sound than the spoken sound I'm using, and continues to be a very major part of the astral plane. So instead of Varanatmak Shabd, we call it Dhunatmak Shabd. That means it's mostly a tone, a sound that's in the music of it is the sound, not the words that we make out of it. It's good enough there. It changes again. If we go from the astral plane to the causal plane, the sound is again from the self but changes. And it looks like It's a sound that has already been there all the time. Here, if somebody now rings a bell, before that I was not hearing, now I'm hearing. In the causal plane, we have been hearing it all the time. It's not that the sound is coming now. Sound was there all the time. I was hearing all the time at that level. I just blocked my ears, and therefore I came into the physical and astral self and didn't hear it. It doesn't mean sound was not there. That's a very strange experience that you have a sound inside you at the causal plane which is running all the time, and you know it's running all the time when you go there. You've been hearing it all the time there. In that self of yours, you're hearing all the time. Therefore, the Dhun Atmak Shabd has been termed in our Indian literature as Anhad Shabd. Anhad means it has no beginning, no middle, no end. It's infinite. It's not merely called infinite because the universe is infinite. It's called infinite because your experience of the sound is that you have been hearing it infinitely. And that's a different form, still coming from the self. You cross over beyond the mind, beyond this creation altogether, beyond all these three words. What does the sound become? It can't be a sound anymore. There you discover the sound was not coming from yourself, it was the self. That happens only what they call it Par Brahm. That means beyond the creation of the mind. In Par Brahm, the sound shows that you are the sound. Till then it is not yourself. You are separating yourself as an experiencer. There you found the sound was merely a connection that continues from one level to another. Other things change, levels change. Sound does not. Sound continues. Sound moves you from one to the other. And there when you discover that, it's called Sar Shabd. Sar Shabd means real sound. Real sound is the self. When you go to true home, you find that the sound generated from there. Even the sound we heard of the physical plane at every level that changed like that was generated from there. So it's a connecting link just exactly like the self. So the sound is the self. But merely practicing sound here and hearing various kinds of sounds, that meditation doesn't connect you. The sound is being used right here in meditation to pick up a sound. Out of several sounds you can hear. And several sounds, both positive and negative, can be heard in early meditation. You pick up the right sound which comes from the self. Then only you are moving toward the self. Then only you are going within. Otherwise you are without. From the side sounds are coming. Some says, oh, listen to the right side. Don't listen to left side. Or listen to left side. What does it mean, left side, right side sounds? It means nothing because the brain is situated that it functions, logical function one side and intuitive function on the other side. Therefore, we separate them and say the sound, listen to the right side. They know the reason for it. But it doesn't mean that the right side is our true home or something. Or right side is taking us anywhere. No, it will take you to the right side. I met people, my friends, spent 20, 30 years listening to sound on the right side. And they said, why didn't we make any progress? I said, you made good progress on the right side. So you didn't make any progress toward yourself. You are not on the right side, you are not on the left side, you are in the center of the head. In wakeful state, you are in the center of the head. Therefore, you miss the real sound. So the real sound comes from the center and connects all the way to the top. Meditating on sounds by itself means nothing, but if you meditate on the real sound, it is like a jumping up. It's like a leap forward. The attention is gathered to the self faster by listening to the sound of the self than any other means. That is why this particular yoga, which I practiced, the great master taught, is called Surt Shabd Yoga. Surt means attention, Shabd means sound, Yoga means union with the ultimate. So that is why it's really a path of using sound within ourselves. And that sound is resounding in everybody. I remember there was a robber gangster in a gang that used to rob places, and they heard that there was a dera being built. This is a long old story. When the dera in India was being built, and Great Master's time, it was still being built. Before him, it was a very few huts only. And then later on, in his time, a house came up where he lived, and many houses came up. And people like me and my parents also bought houses there. The dera was being built. The great master decided that we'll have a large auditorium, because smaller auditoriums were getting too small for their meetings, and more people were coming. So the designers of the satsangs, that be the place where the satsangs, where the meetings were held, the discourses were held, they designed it that there will be gold toppings. We'll make some nice minarets and make it look very nice, shining gold tops. So an appeal was made, anybody wanting to donate any gold, the surplus gold you have, we'll melt it and make it on top of that building. And so many people gave their gold. So many women gave their bangles, other people do. We want to see our contribution in that building. And the building was coming up and gold was all collected. This came to be known to that gang. And the gang said, that's the place to rob the gold before they can put on the building. So they sent to one of its guys, an explorer, to go and do a recce, what they call reconnaissance, so where the gold is at this time. So we grab it before they put on the building. It's very difficult to get from the building, but let's collect it. So that guy, it's a Muslim guy, and he came to explore. At that time when he came, the great master was giving a discourse. And people were all there, attending there. And he moved about in the houses which were lying there. And he asked some ladies, why aren't you going to this meeting? Your master is giving a talk. No, we are taking up the gold, taking care of the gold. Where is the gold? There in that box. He said, this is the easiest way to find gold here. He went to another house, and there were some children playing. What are you doing here, playing? No, we are taking care of gold. We have saved some gold here. Where is the gold? Oh, it's a top shelf there. They all revealed in the houses where the gold was. He said, this is the easiest recce I've ever done. So a thought came to him. What kind of a man is giving a talk that even these owners of gold are willing to take a risk with that gold, leave with the ladies and children, and go to listen to him? What kind of talk can he give that they don't care for the material wealth? He said, I should go and see what is he talking about. So as he left the place and he was walking, he stood at the back. At that moment, by coincidence, Great Master was saying, that real sound comes from within and is the secret to the true home, and even gangsters and robbers have it. He said, how do they know I'm here? I have to wait and ask him. So he waited, and at the end of the discourse, he walked up to the Great Master. He said, how did you know I'm a robber and a gangster? He said, I don't know you at all. Who are you? He says, no, you know it. I came at the back and you told me even gangsters and robbers have that sound inside. And with that sound, you can go into their true home. I'm a Muslim. Are you telling me that that sound is more important than my kalma? It's more important than this? He says, it is the real kalma. I'm not talking of anything else. You heard of Bange Asmani, the sound coming from the sky? That's the sound I'm talking about. All you need to hear the sound is just be accepted by a Murshid Kamil, a perfectly be master. He got so much affected by this conversation, few minutes conversation. He said, I'm going to stay here. Now this guy's name was Shabd, and he stayed with the Great Master, made most rapid progress. I was very young, and Great Master asked him, what will you do here? Nobody lives here free. They all do some seva. What kind of work can you do? He said, I can only rob people. I never learned anything else. Great Master said, no, that's not good. I don't want you to rob people here, just to live here. You have to do something else. He said, even in the case of robbery, what did the gang do? Travel around, move? Oh, I used to repair the dynamo, the armature, and the electrical things in my truck, in our getaway truck. He said, okay, we'll get you an armature, we'll get you a dynamo. So the first generator which was run with diesel oil and it had a belt on it, was installed and he ran it. I used to come sometimes go and work the belt. It had to be started manually. I still remember that with Shadi I would go and say, I want to move the belt myself. The old memories. But he had such wonderful experiences. He went back in time on the timeline and was able to see not only the Prophet, which he was very fond of, but also went back, even saw Jesus Christ and even saw many other masters of the past. They're all there. Nothing disappears on the timeline. It's just a matter of where you are. So he had these great experiences, and great master allowed him sometimes to tell these experiences in small discourses. So this sound which we are talking of is something, once you hear it, it lifts you up. Almost like you feel you are being taken off the ground. It's the fastest way to pull attention because you are listening to something in yourself. And that's why it's one of the most important things. Excuse me for a minute. I didn't put it off again. You didn't hear it, did you? This is not that sound I'm talking about. That is why it's very important to know that the sound of the self resembles a bell. I'm giving you a little hint, but it resembles a bell. You see, bell has a strike. Dong. Then there's a peal of the bell. The sound inside has very little of that. Dong. No hit on it. It's very melodious, very beautiful. The peal is really the appealing thing. When you listen to it, the peal becomes longer and longer. Sometimes some people feel it's kind of a whistle or some kind of a... Some people compare it with the conch that we blow a conch. So it's a continuous sound, but in the beginning it looks like it's got a vibration up and down, and then it becomes longer and longer. And that's the sound, if you can hear, fastest way to get your attention inside.